This is cool.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew, for
Oh,
doing this.
We're recording right now?
Yeah, it's recording.
Okay.
If you want, we'll see how it looks and we'll
No,
cut
this,
it. Like,
this is great.
but yeah, okay. So thank you, Andrew, for doing this. I know, like, I took you kind of like I stole you like your time, but yeah, I've been following Acquire.com for a while, and I love what you're doing. And so I thought it would be great to get to know you and learn about your company a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for having me and ask away.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about how you started Acquire.com, like a little bit of your journey towards being an entrepreneur?
Yeah. I'll go back about 15 years. I started my first company in college. It was a do-it-yourself drag and drop mobile app builder for small businesses. I had a few ventures, side projects before that, but that was my first company I incorporated. Grew that to about 10 million in recurring revenue. Sold that to a private equity firm. And going through that process of finding a buyer, figuring out what due diligence was, all the headaches you go through when you're trying to sell your company. The biggest one, just finding a buyer. And then other pain points, the legal process, understanding if the buyer is legitimate, do they have the funds to close? There's so many small points in the acquisition process that I figured could be improved upon, so I built Acquire.com to address that.
Okay, that's super interesting. So you sold that startup, and then you decided was the process like really messy for you, like selling that startup?
I mean, I think anyone who goes and sells their business is challenging. I remember I looked for a buyer for about 2 years. So I'd email strategic buyers, and I'd email private equity firms. I probably could have gotten better guidance, but I didn't know what I was doing. I bootstrapped the business, so I didn't have a lot of support behind me. And when I finally sold the business, I sold to a financial buyer, a private equity firm. And I thought it'd be really interesting to essentially get all buyers of specifically SaaS businesses in one place. So when you're ready to sell your business, you can meet them a lot faster than I did on my own.
Okay, so what was the year that you founded Acquire.com?
I started working on it in 2020. It was originally an LLC, and we reincorporated to a C Corp about a year after that.
Okay, and since then you've done like a lot of transactions.
We've done over 1,000 transactions and over 500 million in total deal volume.
Okay, how does your business model work? Can you talk a little bit about how it works?
We have two sides. So on the buy side, we have a small subscription to access deals. So what that means is you can browse the marketplace and see all the listings, but all the information is private. So you can't see the business owner's name or their website, or if they have a P&L or a presentation attached to the listing. Essentially everything you'd find in a data room. And to access that information, you pay anywhere between $400 to $800 a year. And that allows you to sign an NDA, begin speaking directly to the owner of the business. And then on the sell side, we charge 4 to 6% on commission when businesses are successfully sold.
Okay, how many subscribers do you have on the buy side now, or less?
We have about 6,000.
Okay, so that in ARR more or less.
It's about 4 million run rate.
4 million run rate. Okay, that's really good. And you said it was like the ACV is like from 4K to 8K a year.
Yep.
Okay, that's actually really like kind of like high on the high end of what would be like a SaaS product, something like that. Would you say or not?
You could argue that, but the way that we try to price it is a point where it's enough to filter out buyers that may not be serious. So we don't really consider it our core business model.
Okay.
We view it as a way to separate buyers that might just be looking around between those that are serious and actually do want to pursue an acquisition.
Okay, that's really interesting. And yeah, makes sense. And okay, so on the other side, you take a 6%, you said, of the transactions?
4 to 6%, depending on the size of the business.
Okay, and how does the process work?
So when you sign up on Acquire.com, depending on the size of your business, if it's a larger business, typically our minimum threshold for M&A advisory is over 100,000 in trailing 12 months revenue. And if it's over that mark, our team will reach out to you, set up a call, walk you through how to prepare your business to go live in the marketplace. We'll also help prepare certain documents if you need help recasting your P&L statement to show the true profitability of your business. or putting together a sim presentation that outlines more details of your business will help with that. And then that's where we will have an agreement where we'll take 4% of the sale of your business only if successful. And then if it's below 100,000 revenue, we have automated tools so you can sell the business on your own.
Okay, so would you consider yourself like not yourself like Acquire.com like the next evolution of investment banking services, something like that?
Internally we like to describe ourselves as a tech-enabled investment bank. So just like an investment bank will advise you on finding a buyer, how to ensure this buyer is legitimate, how to make sure you're getting the highest valuation when you're selling your business, how to negotiate the best terms, how to just ensure that you get in front of the right buyers. And then we have a lot of technology that allows us to get your business in front of essentially hundreds of thousands of buyers within a day. And then also tools that streamline the legal process and then also allowing you to close safely and securely with escrow.
It's super interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about what was the process, like the growth process? I guess like obviously you start from zero, right? How do you build up that customer base to be selling, like having sold already like 1,000 businesses? That's a big number.
Well, one thing, so about the 1,000 businesses, there's a lot on the small end and then on the large end too. So it varies in size. But when you have that many clients, what you have to essentially do is you need to build an automated set of tools to serve all them. So you can serve clients essentially while you're asleep or you're not available. Otherwise, you're going to need a huge team. Right. So the first thing we did was we built tools where you can onboard yourself. You can onboard your own business and instantly start meeting with buyers. And then when a buyer wants to submit an offer to you, instead of getting an attorney where they draft a letter of intent for you, we have our own letter of intent builder. So they can send you a real formal offer within minutes. So doing things like that allows you to serve more customers, essentially 24/7, but then also streamlines and speeds up the whole transaction process, allowing you to facilitate more deals. Because there's a saying that time kills deals. So the more that we can speed up the ability for a buyer and seller to meet, and then those two to transact and close their acquisition, the more deals that we can facilitate. So that's kind of that's the mindset we're always trying to have at the company. Is how do we make this? How do we reduce the friction? How do we speed things up? How do we remove things that can typically take even just a day or two? How do we reduce that down to less than an hour and make it a lot easier? And when we do that, we think we're able to help more entrepreneurs and we're able to help more startups get acquired.
Yeah, that's super interesting. How many people are you now in the team?
We're pretty small in total between remote, outsourced, and in-house. About 25.
Okay, yeah, it's quite a small team for what you're running. Do you feel like so basically what you're giving is more liquidity to market that obviously like you're helping with the lack of knowledge and access to like kind of like these best ways to sell your company for entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, basically you're giving like a lot of liquidity to a market that might not be as liquid as obviously like the public market, right? Do you see all going that way? Like, do you see like in the future every like from every like small to big private company being listed in something like this, and business owners being able to transact like even just shares of their businesses in platforms like yours?
Like partial exits?
Yeah,
we've looked at that. The main holdback is regulatory. So to actually enable that, it would probably be like adding 2 buttons and a checkbox. Do you want to sell half your company?
Yeah.
But when you sell shares, you need to be what's called a broker dealer and essentially have a higher level of regulatory scrutiny. So we'd like to get there, but in terms of what you first said about bringing liquidity to the market, absolutely. You may not know this, but a lot of our buyers are high net worth individuals looking to enter entrepreneurship through acquisition. So when you have a small software company, let's say it's worth $5 million or less, that market is generally too small for private equity firms or strategic buyers. So the market for your business is usually going to be maybe a VP of sales at another company or a VP of marketing or a CEO who's looking to buy an adjacent business. And identifying those people as buyers is really difficult because they don't necessarily have a sign that says, hey, we buy companies like a private equity firm, or Google has a corporate development officer and a clear person that you can reach out to.
Yeah.
So what we do is identify those people, and then we also identify their liquidity. How much in funds do they have to transact? And by doing that, we connect the buyers and the sellers of this market a lot easier than you would otherwise.
Makes sense. And it's interesting. And with regards to, we were speaking about regulation, and a question I have is like, you operate worldwide, right? Like you have listed like companies from the United States, but also like from outside the US.
Yep.
How does that work? Like, do you like help them with anything regarding like other regulations that are not the US, or like how does it look for your company? Is that a challenge?
It can be, yes. Like one rule that we work within is asset sale versus stock sale. If it's an asset sale, we don't need to be a broker dealer or have a license like that. There's also a rule called the SEC no action letter that says if a buyer and seller come to the agreement that they're going to do a stock sale on their own without our negotiation, meaning I don't say, hey, you guys should do a stock sale for these reasons. You and the buyer negotiate that on your own. That's okay. But it's when we get into stock transaction negotiations where it gets a little fuzzy. And then, yes, when we enter different countries, we also have to adhere to their local jurisdictions as well. So it can get tricky because we've done transactions in 100 different countries. So we have to constantly be looking at what is the rules of engagement. But the easy way to cut through all that is to do asset sales. And typically, with our market being enterprise value of 5 million or less, those are almost always an asset sale because it's more advantageous to the buyer. And when you're not buying the actual corporate entity, you're not acquiring any sort of liabilities that you normally would if you buy the C Corp. So that's how we were able to make that a lot easier. But if we were doing security sales and transacting corporations from, United States to Spain, as an example, it'd be much more difficult. We'd have to get a lot more documents like notarized and adhere to local laws much more.
Makes sense. That sounds very cool.
We've just, for context, we've done an actual transaction from the United States in Spain, and it took 6 months or something like that to transfer the actual Spain entity over to US buyer.
Yeah, you have to do the flipping, or I don't know how they call it. Yeah. I've dealt with stuff like that as well. It's quite messy. And what's your so you're right now like in 4 million ARR with the buy side. Then transaction wise yearly, what's the run rate more or less?
About 4 million.
For a year. 4 million. Okay. What's your growth strategy currently? What are the acquisition channels that you're using, and where do you want to take, or you see these going to?
Yeah, great question. A lot of it is just inbound marketing. So search engine optimization, paid ads, social media marketing, content creation. We have a podcast. We do webinars. So lots of inbound marketing, a lot of content creation. And that creates kind of like a content flywheel where every time we create a piece of content, it's great to watch, but we distribute that across multiple different channels: YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, our email newsletter. So that's probably our most prominent marketing strategy and customer acquisition strategy is content creation, and then distributing that content across multiple different channels to get the most out of it. And then wherever the content ends up quote unquote living, whether that's our blog or our YouTube channel, that also continues to garner views and be read by other people for years to come.
It's curious how content is kind of like taking over in the B2B world, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, like for the B2C world, like with Instagram, I think it kind of started like this revolution, but now every company in the B2B world is trying to do content, and not every company is doing a great job at it. Do you have any recommendations for companies trying to start like doing content in their B2B?
Yeah, I think initially just start is the most important thing. I think content's one of these things where you need to figure out a way to get started before you get good at it. I think a lot of companies, individuals, and teams, everybody, they do that in reverse. They try to think of a way to be great at it to start, and then they get started.
Right.
And really the way to become great is to just start. So I think if they want to start a podcast, as an example, just interview some customer and ask them how they like your product and ask them where they're from or something. And then you'll start to pick out common stories or use cases, and then just build on that. And then from there, after a few episodes, that's when I'd sit down and say, let's do the podcast about interviewing founders on top of this thing at SaaS. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, just don't hold yourself up by trying to make it perfect.
Yeah, everyone wants to be great starting out, and like every great one started being shitty, really.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time and effort and consistent work to get really good at something.
Yeah.
So it's like, and what about hiring content professionals? Do you see that as a challenge?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what type of content. Like, I think with your personal brand, your company's social brand, if you're the founder, you should run that for a little bit so you can get a feel for what resonates and what performs with your customers. But then content writing, I'm not a great long form writer, so we hired for that, and that can be a difficult role to hire for. And I always like to think if you have one marketer that you can hire a content writer, because you can use that across social, webinar copy, email copy, obviously blog content. There's so much content that you can make with that. But yeah, I think just in general, good people they're hard to find.
Yeah.
So I don't have any advice there, but just keep your standards high, and if it takes you a long time, it'll be worth it to make the right hire.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Okay, and just to round up, Andrew, thank you so much for your time. By the way, I hijacked you basically into doing this.
Great.
So basically, what advice would you give founders? That might be. I think your focus areas might be thinking about how to sell their company.
The first thing I'd probably ask, and I do ask this often, is why do you want to sell it? Start there. Make sure you're really serious about this decision. It could be you built a great business, you want to cash out, check in your chips, so to speak, and have a great outcome. It could be because things aren't going that well and you want to move on to something else. So get really clear on why you want to sell, because buyers are going to ask that too. Then if you're not sure where to start, the first step is preparing for the acquisition. So do you have your house in order? Do you have processes documented? Do you have a clean profit and loss statement that buyers can quickly read and assess the health of your business? Do you have any sort of marketing material that you can put together to give buyers an understanding of your business? Because when you sell your business, buyers are going to be looking at your business and a lot of others. So understanding that preparation can be the difference between selling your business and not selling it, I think is probably the best first step. Prepare, and then you could work with us and find a buyer.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just last question, because I think it could be interesting as well. Okay, and how about advice for high net worth individuals that want to buy companies? Because I thought that was an interesting info that you gave us. Like, there's many high net worth individuals that want to, enter to entrepreneurship through acquisition, and that I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. I would say set a goal, and what I mean by that is, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to hit some sort of financial goal? Are you just looking to be CEO of a company? Because there's multiple different types of companies you can buy. If it was me, my personal favorite are really profitable SaaS businesses, where you can buy a business maybe in an industry that you're somewhat familiar with, and you can grow that business. So my goal would be, I want to buy a SaaS business with $200,000 in net profit, so I can pay my salary, my living costs. I can be the CEO of that business and then set a goal to triple the company over the next 2 years. So once you get really clear on your financial goals and also your strategic goals as well, are you looking to grow the business or hold the business? That can really narrow your search. But you asked me tips on, if you're looking to sell your business, I'd say go to acquire.com. I think I wanted to say that.
Yeah.
But for buyers, same thing. If you're looking to buy a business like that, check out acquire.com. We have a ton of content for both sides as well.
That's awesome. Okay, Andrew, thank you so much for doing this. Super cool. So, I hope to see acquire.com everywhere. By the way, I love the content of Times Squares. When you say
Thanks.
hey, this guy started his startup
I'll give you a fun fact with the interview. Do you know how much those cost to get a
No, how much do they cost?
So this is a cool marketing tip. I think maybe people will copy me after hearing this.
Yeah.
But what we do is we take a number of tweets that we've seen other people say about our company, and we put them into images, and then we work with a company called AdQuick, and we'll actually put them up in a billboard where it's showing typically between 25 to 35 different tweets in a 5-minute period. So it shows 1, 2, 3. So we'll pay around $3,000 to $4,000 for that 5-minute placement. but we get 35 different tweets and we take a photo when they appear. So for the cost of one placement, we get 35 in there.
That's so good.
So it's just a revolving video, and we snap a photo, and the photo is only 5-10 seconds,
Yeah.
but we just need the photo. We take that and then we share it on social
That's
media,
so
and it looks
good.
bigger than it is. So long story short, it's about $200 for placement.
That's so good. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think those kind of like guerrilla marketing techniques are the best.
It's fun, and then bonus points because you can share with a client, and
Yeah.
they also share it, so it goes even farther.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
See ya. Okay, thank you so much, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bye bye.
Cheers.
Okay, man, dude, thank you so much for that. It was really good. Yeah, for the first time, like interviewing someone like face to face, dude.